Welcome to Program E Belajau Mathematics Form 2, Chapter 7, Coordinates. I am Teacher Seo from SMJK Tinggi Cina Melaka. In this video, we will focus on Learning Content 7.2, Midpoint in the Cartesian Coordinate System, and 7.3, the Cartesian Coordinate System. There are 5 learning standards in this learning content. 7.2.1 Explain the meaning of midpoint between 2 points on the Cartesian plane. 7.2.2 Derive the formula of the midpoint between 2 points on the Cartesian plane. 7.2.3 Determine the coordinates of midpoints between 2 points on the Cartesian plane. 7.2.4 Solve problems involving midpoint in the Cartesian coordinate system. And 7.3.1 Solve problems involving the Cartesian coordinate system. Now we proceed to Learning Standard 7.2.1. Explain the meaning of midpoint between 2 points on the Cartesian plane. Students, you can refer to your textbook on page 132 to 134. What is midpoint? Midpoint is a point that divides a line segment equally. In this diagram, we can see that the distance of point x1, y1 to the midpoint is equal to the distance of point x2, y2 to the midpoint. Now we look at the example 8. Determine the midpoint of the straight line AB. So we can see that from point A to point B, there are a total of 8 units. In order to get the midpoint, we divide it into 2 parts equally. So it's clearly that the point P is the midpoint of line AB. Next, we look at the B. We need to search for the midpoint of line AB. So, it's clearly that the point D is the midpoint of AB because the point D divides the line AB equally into 2 parts. Now we proceed to example 9. P is the midpoint of the straight line AB. Determine coordinates P. There are a few steps we need to follow in order to get the coordinates of P. Step 1. Determine the midpoint of AC and BC. Step 2. Construct a perpendicular bisector of AC and BC. Now we look at the diagram. The first blue line is the perpendicular bisector of AC. This perpendicular bisector divides the line AC into 2 equal parts, which is 3 units each part. The second blue line is the perpendicular bisector of BC, where this perpendicular bisector divides the line BC into 2 equal parts, where each part is 2 units. Next, step 3, intersection between the perpendicular bisector of AC and BC is the midpoint of the line AB. So, this is the point where the perpendicular bisector of BC and perpendicular bisector of AC intersect. Step 4, point P is the midpoint. Now we proceed to Learning Standard 7.2.2. Derive the formula of the midpoint between 2 points on the Cartesian plane. Student, you may refer to your textbook on page 134 to 135. Midpoint for a slanting line can be determined by identifying the horizontal distance and vertical distance, which are both divided by 2. This is the formula of midpoint: x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. Next, we proceed to Learning Standard 7.2.3. Determine the coordinates of midpoint between 2 points on the Cartesian plane. You may refer to your textbook on page 135 to 136. The location of a midpoint can be shown by constructing a perpendicular bisector. The intersection between the perpendicular bisector with the line segment will determine the coordinates of the midpoint on the Cartesian plane. Now we look at the Cartesian plane here. The green line is the perpendicular bisector of AB. Both lines are intersect at point M. So this point M is the midpoint of line segment AB. We also can apply the formula of midpoint to search for the midpoint of line AB. Okay, let us represent the coordinates of point B as x1, 6 is x1, and y1, and coordinates of point A, we represent it as x2 and y2. So, according to the formula of midpoint, x1 plus x2. So, x1 is 6 plus x2 is 2, then divided by 2. Next, y1 plus y2. y1 is 4 and y2 is 0. So, 4 plus 0 divided by 2. So, at the end, we got the midpoint of line AB equals to 4, 2. Now we look at example 10. Calculate the coordinate of the midpoint on the straight line AB given A, 2, 5 and B, 2, 1. Alright, here we apply the formula of midpoint, which is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So for the coordinates of point A, we represent it with 2 is x1, 5 is y1. While for point B, the coordinates represented by 2 is x2, 1 is y2. So we replace it into the formula of the midpoint. So x1 plus x2, 2 plus 2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2. So y1 is 5, y2 is 1. So 5 plus 1 divided by 2. At the end, we got the answer of midpoint of AB, which is 2, 3. Now we look at example 11. Calculate the coordinate of the midpoint on the straight line MN. First, we have to identify the coordinates for point M and point N. So the coordinates for point M is 10, 7, while the coordinates for point N is 4, 1. So for point M, 10 is the x1, 7 is y1. For point N, 4 is x2, 1 is y2. So now we apply the formula of the midpoint. x1 plus x2 divided by 2, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. We replace the value into the formula. x1 plus x2, so 10 plus 4 divided by 2, y1 plus y2, so 7 plus 1 divided by 2. At the end, we got the midpoint of mn equals to 7, 4. Now we proceed to Learning Standard 7.2.4, Solve problems involving midpoint in the Cartesian coordinate system. You may refer to your textbook on page 137. Now we look at the example 12. The diagram shows the line PAQ on the Cartesian plane. A is the midpoint for the line PQ. Determine the coordinates of point P. So in order to solve this problem, we must know and understand the problem. Given that the point A is the midpoint for line PQ, so the distance of AP is equal to AQ. And now we identify the coordinates for each point on the Cartesian plane. For Q, the point Q is lies on the x-axis, so the coordinates for point Q is 2, 0. While for the point A, it is lies on the y-axis, so the coordinates for point A is 0, 2, and the point P, we let it be x, y. Now, it's time for us to search for the value of x and y. Here we apply the formula of the midpoint. Okay, now we look at here. Point P is x, y. Point Q, 2, 0. And the midpoint is A, 0, 2. Okay, now we search for the coordinates for x coordinates for point P. So we use x plus 2 divided by 2 equals to 0. So this one, x plus 2 divided by 2 equals to 0. And for the y coordinates of point P, y plus 0 divided by 2 equals to 2. So this one, y plus 0 divided by 2 equals to the midpoint 2 here. Okay. So now we search for the value of x and y. At the end, we got the answer where x equals to -2 and y equals to 4. So as a conclusion, the coordinates for point P are -2, 4. For further practice, students, you may do the questions in self-practice 7.2 on page 138 to 140 in your textbook. Now we proceed to Learning Standard 7.3.1, Solve problems involving the Cartesian coordinate system. Students, you may refer to your textbook on page 140. Now we look at example 14. The diagram shows a rhombus. Given that the distance between point A and B is 5 units, calculate first the coordinates of point A And second, calculate the midpoint of line AC. Okay, now we try to fill up the info given in the question. We know that the distance of point A and B is 5 units. Okay. And the line AB is parallel to the x-axis. So these 2 points A and B have the common y coordinate. Alright. So let A, X, and 6. Okay. Okay, how are we going to search for the X? We can take the 11, the X coordinate of B, minus 5. Okay, 11 minus 5 equals to 6. So this is the value of X coordinate for point A. So conclusion, coordinates A are 6, 6. Okay, the next one, B, we need to search for the midpoint of straight line AC. Okay, now we try to identify the coordinates for point C. Okay, line AC is parallel to the y-axis, so they have the common x coordinate, which is 6. And the y coordinates for point C is 2. Okay, now we can search for the midpoint for line AC. We try to look at the solution. We use the formula for midpoint. Okay, so we let the coordinates for point A, 6, 6 be x1 and y1, and the coordinates for point C be x2, y2. So now we replace the values into the formula of the midpoint. So x1 plus x2, 6 plus 6 divided by 2, y1 plus y2, so 6 plus 2 divided by 2. At the end, you can get the midpoint of line AC, which is 6, 4. So conclusion, the midpoint of AC is 6, 4. Alright, for further practice, students, you may complete the exercise, the questions in self-practice 7.3 on page 141 in your textbook. Thank you for following this lesson. I hope this video can help you to understand this learning content. See you in the next lesson. Bye.